As the game progressed, their form kept on deteriorating, and Hero, who was all by himself, couldn't do anything at all. Once again, he found himself in the same precarious situation, just like he did during the futsal tournament. Hero took a peek at the faces of his teammates. Most of them showed no concern at all, and it looked like they had already given up on the match. However, Akashi's face said otherwise. He hadn't given up on the match. "Oh, there's still somebody who hasn't given up on the match," Hero murmured. From the moment he landed his eyes on Akashi, he had every reason to keep a distance from him. Spiky hair, eyes shaped like fish, a face that looked extremely tensed, and to top it all, he had a very loud voice. Akashi's appearance and his manner of speech gave him the impression of the typical hot-headed guy that appears in most of the manga and anime. After conceding the second goal in less than 10 minutes, it was already difficult for them to make a comeback, but having an uncooperative teammate in the team made the matter even worse. Thus, even though he reluctantly wanted to keep a distance from Akashi, he didn't have any other choice but to depend on Akashi if he wanted to win the match. Beep! On the 15th minute of the game, they conceded another goal, and this time as well, he didn't even get to touch the ball. "Oi! Huh? What'd you want, shorty?" Akashi replied in a harsh tone. He seemed extremely agitated. "Do you want to win the match? So what if I want to win the match? I can help you to win the match. Go away. I'm not in the mood to joke." Akashi grunted and turned around. "Just pass me the ball once, and if I can't score the goal, then I'll play as a defender instead," Hero yelled. However, Akashi didn't respond at all and went over to his position. Due to the unresponsiveness of Akashi, Hero had no idea if he was willing to cooperate or not. Beep. Unsure about whether or not Akashi would cooperate with him, he had no choice but to trust him. With the sound of the whistle, Hero kicked the ball backwards towards Akashi instead of General. "Please pass me the ball. Please pass me the ball." As he dashed forward, he started to pray. He looked behind him to see whether the ball was coming towards him or not. To his surprise, the ball did come towards him. After he passed the ball towards Akashi, he dashed towards the opponent's goal without looking back, hoping he'd somehow get the ball back. After the ball was played towards Akashi, the opponent players rushed towards Akashi to steal the ball. Just then, as the opponent players were drawn towards Akashi, he kicked the ball hard toward the direction where Hero was running. "Thank you, Akashi, for trusting me. But why do I feel that he kicked the ball a little too hard? Wait, it'd definitely go out of bounds if I don't trap it in one touch." Even though Akashi did pass the ball to Hero, he hit the ball a little too hard. However, Hero still tried really hard to reach the ball. After attaining some height, the ball began to drop rapidly. Step! 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 Making full use of his hamstrings and foot muscles, he sprinted towards the ball with all his might. However, he was still some distance away from the ball, and no matter how much he tried, to everyone it looked like that the ball would go out of bounds. Contrary to everybody's expectation, he leaped forward while stretching his right leg. Almost at the periphery of the boundary line, his toe touched the ball. The ball bounced behind him over his head as it touched his feet. What the asterisk? He saved that ball? Thwack! Even though he managed to save the ball by jumping towards the ball, he couldn't land properly on his feet and crashed against the protective net. The opponent defenders were still far away from the ball, and it would definitely take them some moment to reach the ball. Even though he crashed against the net, he instantly picked himself up and ran toward the ball. Besides him, the opponent keeper was the only other player who was close to the ball, and he didn't waste any time as well. Just like him, the opponent keeper rushed towards the ball as well. Both of them competed for the ball. It seemed like that the keeper would somehow block his course even though he'd get to the ball before the keeper. As the keeper ran toward the ball, he hid his arms behind his back to prevent any possible PK. Hero was the first one to reach to the ball. However, the keeper caught up to him and stood in front of him to defend against him. Unlike the previous defenders he had faced before, the keeper didn't leave him any space to dribble. His defense looked extremely flawless. Being a keeper, he didn't open his legs, and he was conscious of his left and right side as well. I don't see any space. What should I do now? He began to wonder. Neither could he dribble the ball from his left nor from his right. The keeper had blocked all his route. Just where did a keeper like this come from? His defense is already on par with pros, but I don't remember him. Shouldn't this kind of keeper be playing a national team? For the first time in the match, he looked really anxious. Hero couldn't figure out the identity of the keeper in front of him. Despite showcasing such an amazing talent, he hadn't heard about him in his previous life. Even Kurosawa Taki, who didn't let in a single shot during the futsal tournament, paled to the comparison of the keeper in front of him. Now I get it why the coach didn't play that tall keeper, he mumbled. While carefully moving the ball forward, he took a peek at the keeper's face. His eyes were glued on the ball at his feet, and he had completely blocked his route. He tried to perform a body feint to misguide the keeper, but the keeper didn't even react a bit. As if the keeper was aware of his tricks, he didn't show any reaction to his feints. Just then he noticed a gap between the keeper's legs. He tapped the ball lightly, but the keeper was quick to react. He lunged his left leg and closed the gap instantly. The keeper deliberately let a gap in his legs for Hero to try to pass the ball between his legs. And just like he predicted, Hero indeed tried to pass the ball between his legs. But to his surprise, the ball rolled over his head instead. Hero kicked the ball lightly with his left leg, but before the ball reached the keeper's legs, he gently tapped beneath the ball with his right feet and chipped the ball above the keeper's head. The keeper, who was already on the ground, couldn't react to the uncertain move of Hero and was left dumbfounded. Before the ball dropped, Hero hit the ball in midair and scored a brilliant volley goal. Beep! Yeah! Woohoo! Unbelievable! Everybody in the pitch was stunned by his play. Nobody could believe their eyes. They looked at him with disbelief. Even his teammates were having a hard time to digest the fact that they had scored a goal against the senior team. While everybody were cheering, Hero ran towards the post. He then took the ball out and ran toward the center of the pitch while carrying the ball. He didn't want to waste any time to cheer as his team was still down by 2 goals. Even though he scored a goal against the senior team, they were still losing the match by 3, 1 score. You freaking did it, Akashi exclaimed in ecstasy. Yes, but we still need 3 more goals to win the match, Hero replied. Yeah, that's right. We're going to win the match. Akashi clenched his fist and stretched his hand towards Hero. What do you want? He inquired while looking at the fist of Akashi. Hero didn't realize that Akashi simply wanted to do a fist bomb. Akashi didn't reply anything and kept on pointing his fist towards Hero. Oh, I see. Hero finally realized the meaning behind Akashi's gesture. He then gently tapped Akashi's fist with his fist and performed a fist bomb. Thwack! Let's score 3 more goals and win the match, he exclaimed as he placed the ball at the kickoff position. Beep! The opponent team started the kickoff, and from the moment they started the kickoff, they didn't make any mistakes. Unlike Hero's team, their coordination was top-notch. Nobody among them acted selfish. They were all well organized, and every time his teammates would rush towards the ball, they would immediately pass the ball to other player. Right. The game of cat and mouse continued for a while. The ball was the mouse and they were the cats. Every time they tried to take hold of the mouse would run away from them. As they tried to snatch the ball away from the senior players, they only exhausted themselves. Every single player in the senior team played so brilliantly that they couldn't even get near to the ball. Unable to snatch the ball, they began to man-mark every senior players. But man-marking only works when each and every individual is capable of stopping the respective players that they are man-marking. And in terms of overall ability, it was evident from the moment they stepped on the pitch that they lacked far behind to the senior players. Even though Hero surpassed every other player in the field in terms of skills and potential, he couldn't do anything at all. Marking him as a threat, the senior players didn't even let him touch the ball. They're not even letting me touch the ball. Hero clicked his tongue in frustration. The opponent players would pass the ball back to the keeper every time Hero rushed towards a player with the ball, as if they were openly admitting that they couldn't take him by themselves. They took absolutely no chance against him. But even after passing the ball back to the keeper, they didn't try to waste time. Instead, the keeper would instantly pass the ball forward and initiate a counterattack. The keeper was playing the role of the anchor who'd control the tempo of the game. Hero's teammates would once again prove to be absolutely useless against the senior players in terms of individual skills. As the keeper would kick the ball towards their goal, Sasaki would find it troublesome to stop the senior player. Ken would come out of his post to defend the ball and leave the post wide open. Taking advantage of the situation, the senior players would simply pass the ball between themselves to score in an open post, instead of trying to dribble past the keeper. At the 34th minute of the match, Ken would once again make the same mistake of leaving the post as he did many times during the match, and it would nearly cost them another goal. However, Akashi would go on to block the ball with his face. After passing through Sasaki and Ken, the opponent player would shoot the ball in an open post. Just then, Akashi would jump sideways and take the shot on his face. He would successfully manage to block the shot. The ball would then fall on Sasaki's feet after the rebound. Sasaki would quickly get cornered as the opponent's striker would rush towards him. Luckily, Hiro, who dropped deep to defend against the opponent's attack, would find himself near to Sasaki. Despite being pressured by the opponent's striker, Sasaki would pass the ball to Hiro, and at 35th minute of the match, Hiro would go on to score his second goal against the senior team. The senior team would continue with their tactic even after conceding the second goal. With that tactic of theirs, they would nearly seal the match at the last minute of the match with another goal. However, Goddess of Luck would do them real bad as the shot hit by their striker would go on to hit the goalpost, and once again they would concede another goal on rebound, which would cost them a crucial goal. With that final goal, the score of the match would read as such: Team Senior 3, Team Newbie 3. The game would end up in tie. And just like that, Hiro would go on to score 3 goals against the senior team and help his team to pull out a draw against the senior team. After the end of the match, later in that day at around 9:47 p.m. Such a tiring day. While lying on his bed, he tried to recall the events which took place during the day. I need to work on my off-the-ball movements. After analyzing his play, he noticed a fatal flaw in his playstyle. Even though he was phenomenal when he had the ball on his feet, he sucked really bad during the moment when he didn't have the ball in his feet. Just by keeping him away from the ball, the senior players were able to completely nullify him. What do the star players do when they don't have the ball in their feet? He began to wonder. He tried to recall as much information of the future as possible. In his mind, he played several matches and tried to analyze the movements of the world's best players. But since the camera never focused solely on the individual, he couldn't get much information from the several matches he analyzed in his mind. However, while he was recalling about the play style of the several world-class players, he noticed something. Even though it looked extremely trivial, but each and every player he analyzed in his mind had one thing in common. They were always in search of space, and they always positioned themselves in the space where the probability of getting the ball was maximum. Andreas Messi would always turn his head in search of the most optimal route towards the goal. Christian Romero would always look for the space where he can get the ball. Even if they didn't have the ball in their feet, they'd always be searching and scanning. The world-class players would always be in search of the space and weakness to exploit. Okay, I'll work on my off-the-ball movements before the first prefectural match, he mumbled. After analyzing countless matches, he fell asleep. Even though he wanted to analyze more matches, his young body couldn't keep up with his thinking. On top of playing a match, he also completed the daily mission given by the system. The first prefectural match of the national tournament was about a month away, and within 2 weeks, they would find out their first opponent. Since the tournament was played in a knockout format, there was no second chance. The tournament was all or nothing. A week before the commencement of the All-Japan Inter-School Football Tournament, the day when the tie sheet of the tournament would get published. As usual, players of Okami Elementary School were going through a rough training session in preparation for the tournament. Just then, assistant coach Honda made his way toward the pitch while carrying some papers in his hands. Beep! With the sound of the whistle, everybody stopped the training. The sudden stoppage of the training confused everybody. All right, everyone, gather up. Honda-san commanded everybody to gather around, And with that announcement, everybody started to gather around the coaches. Is it for the tie sheet? Players began to question each other. While they gathered around the coach, Coach Miura started to speak. The tie sheet for the tournament is out. Pay attention now, as I'll be announcing our first opponent, and I'll also be announcing the starting players for the tournament. With that announcement, everybody started to get anxious. While there were few people on the pitch who maintained their composure and didn't seem bothered by the revelation, most of the players seemed extremely flustered and anxious. Please, God, let me make it to the team. I'd be satisfied even if I can play as a substitute. The players started to chatter among themselves. Silence, Honda-san yelled. After that, nobody dared to make a single noise. Before I announce the name of the team which we'll be playing against, I've got a good news and a bad news. Good news is that just like our school, we'll be facing against a newbie school who have entered the tournament for the first time in our first match, and woohoo! Before the coach could even finish his sentence, the players started to cheer very loudly. They celebrated as if they had already won the first match of the tournament. Silence! Let the coach finish his sentence first. Once again, Honda-san yelled at them. Sai tilde. Don't celebrate too early. The bad news is that we're placed in the same group as Karasuno Elementary School. Huh? What? The smiles on their face quickly faded away as they heard about the announcement made by Coach Miura that they were placed in the same group as Karasuno Elementary School. Okay, let's keep it low for now. We've prepared enough. So let's believe in our efforts. Coach Miura tried to raise the morale of the players, which was already crumbling, just after hearing that they'd been placed in the same group as one of the favorites of the tournament. After that, Coach Miura gestured Honda-san to come closer and whispered something in his ear softly. As soon as Coach Miura finished his sentence, Honda-san stormed outside the pitch. Before we end our training, I'll announce the players who are going to be our starting 11. Those whose names are called, step forward. In goal, we have Mark Ueto from Class 6B and Kobayashi Endo from Class 4C. Kobayashi Endo was the same keeper who he had faced against during the match between the senior team and the junior team. Unlike Mark, Endo was kind of short. Endo was about the same height as Hiro. However, his reflexes were top-notch. His play style was similar to that of Iker Casillas. Center backs, Daichi Kamada from Class 4B, Shinsuke Nagura from Class 3A, Yamamoto Kasuke from Class 5B, Yamazaki Kento from Class 6A, and finally Nobara Kashi from Class 1C. Right backs, Gagamaru Jin from Class 2A and Iori Sato from Class 3B. Left backs, Wataru Lemon from Class 5A and Kusaka Bisu from Class 6B. Midfielders, Ito Rin from Class 4B, Kosei Otsuka from Class 3B, Ashime Suzuki from Class 5A, Asahi Kwan from Class 6B, Ryusuke Ruan from Class 6A, and finally Takahashi Hiro from Class 1B, Nom. Forwards, Sohei Sato from Class 6B, Suzuki Shiro from Class 4A, and finally Kurosaki Kuro from Class 3B. All of these players have been selected as the starting players for the tournament ahead. But the list could change any time, so don't take your position for granted. Even those whose names were not called today have an equal chance to make it into the team. So don't feel sad about it. Do you understand? The players whose names were not called looked extremely gloomy. Some even started to cry in the pitch, while some started to whine and complain. Why are those first years selected and not us? One of the senior player complained. Because you lack the skill. Coach Miura bluntly stated the truth in his face. And those who are not satisfied with my decisions are free to leave the team. To control the tantrums of the unselected players, Coach Miura announced that anyone who was not satisfied with his decision was allowed to leave the club. So are you going to leave the club? He then pointed his finger at the senior player who was throwing a tantrum. The senior player quietly took a step back and shut his mouth. After that, nobody dared to speak anything against his decision. The team mostly consisted of the senior players, and the only first years who even got the shot at the starting 11 were only Akashi and Hiro. After the commotion, the coach adjourned the training. Everybody aside from the starting players were advised to leave the pitch. And as everybody aside from the starting players left the pitch, Coach Miura commanded the starting players to follow him. "I can't believe I made it to the team," Akashi whispered in excitement while following the coach. Even though he was only whispering, due to his loud voice, everybody around them could hear him. "Shh, don't make noise," Hiro insisted Akashi to keep his mouth shut. "Why is he taking us into the hall?" Akashi questioned as the coach stopped before the auditorium. Coach Miura took them inside the auditorium. Inside the auditorium, in front of the stage, a projection was being displayed by a projector on a huge white cloth hung in front of the stage. Seeing the projection, everybody bewilderingly stared at the projection ahead. "Are we going to watch a movie?" Akashi exclaimed in ecstasy. "No, you idiot. We're probably here for some video analysis." Video analysis? What is that? While most people would avoid Akashi for his appearance and manner of speech, surprisingly, Hiro and Akashi had many things in common with each other. After the first match, Akashi approached him daily and tried to converse with him. At first, Hiro felt awkward around him and brushed him off by giving him one-word answers. He expected that he'd stop eventually, but contrary to his expectations, Akashi approached him daily without missing a single day. He'd approach him while heading home. He'd approach him in the cafeteria while eating. He'll even try to converse with him while going to the toilet. Even though Akashi followed him basically everywhere, he didn't detect any ill motive from him, and he could feel that he genuinely wanted to befriend him. However, Hiro, who was already 27 years from the inside, thought of Akashi as a little kid instead of a friend. But he didn't want to decline his genuine intentions as well, and thus he befriended Akashi in the end, giving in to his persistence. Although he talked with Akashi as a friend, he considered him more like a little brother than his friend. "Okay, now everybody pay attention." Coach Miura spoke while standing in front of the stage. "Now I'll be discussing our tactics, so don't get distracted." Coach Miura then started to discuss tactics with the starting players. The formation they were going to play in the tournament was 4-4-2 diamond, with 2 forwards at the top, 4 midfielders, and 4 defenders. Hiro was assigned the role of attacking midfielder. Even though Akashi got selected in the team, he wasn't selected in the starting 11, and in that whole lineup, Hiro was the sole first year. Around the time when the coach revealed the starting 11, he could vividly feel the cold gazes of the senior players. But those gazes weren't the gaze of jealousy. Instead, it was a gaze initiating a competition. "Hiro, even though you'll be playing as an attacking midfielder, I want you to drop deep to receive the ball and play as a deep-lying playmaker. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." The coach wanted Hiro to play as a deep-lying playmaker and dominate the midfield. And just like that, after explaining the tactics to the players who were selected for the tournament, Coach Miura adjourned the meeting. "Lucky you, you'll get to play in the starting 11. While they were changing their clothes, Akashi playfully punched him. "What's lucky about it? Do you think that I don't deserve my role?" Hiro returned the punch and questioned Akashi. "Don't joke. I don't know who'll deserve it, if not you, but even though I've been drafted into the official team, I don't know if coach will even use me or not." Akashi frowned. "Don't worry, you'll definitely get your opportunity, so keep on improving. Also, you're much softer than you appear." "Ha ha ha ha," Hiro chuckled as he consoled Akashi. By the time they finished dressing up, the sun was already on the verge of setting down. Far in the horizon, as the flocks of ravens flew right in front of the setting sun, the slanting rays of the setting sun gave a warm orange tinge to the sky. And as he was immersing himself into the picturesque landscapes around him, a silhouette of a person became vivid at a certain distance away from the gate. Unable to take his gaze away from the ethereal scenery in front of him, he kept on staring at the familiar person ahead. Just then, a warm gust of gentle sea breeze knocked the sun hat from her head. She then turned around to pick her fallen hat, and as she picked her hat, she looked at him and she stretched her arms out while revealing a gentle smile. "Let's go home," she spoke in a soft tone. The bright rays of sun coming from behind her blinded him, but even so, he could vividly see her face. Dressed in a white one-piece, the warm rays of setting sun further highlighted her beautiful facial features. Until this day, he never realized just how beautiful his mother was. After the death of his father, She lost the glow in her face from overexertion, and as time passed, her once beautiful face started developing wrinkles. While he was complaining about his life, she worked overtime to make sure he was well fed, working multiple jobs, paying the bills, taking care of his studies and footballing needs. She never complained once. As he was staring at her beautiful face, a particular memory flashed before his eyes. When he was 17 years old, just after finishing high school, while playing football with his friends, his teammates started to show off their new cleats, which their parents bought for them, for graduating high school. Being quite young, he couldn't help but feel jealous. And due to jealousy, he too asked his mother to buy him new cleats. She sternly declined his request, but he kept on pestering her to buy new cleats despite her refusal. While she was already having troubles with paying the bills, he only added fuel to the burning fire by pestering her to buy a new cleat for him. While he was stubbornly asking for new cleats, he didn't even notice that she had been wearing the same clothes for years and years. He couldn't even remember when was the last time that he had seen her in new clothes. Be it some special occasions or even his graduation, she never bought anything for herself, but yet still she provided him with everything that he needed. Even though she couldn't fulfill all his desires, she still fulfilled most of his needs. Reminiscing such moments made him regret about his course of actions. He felt guilty. While she provided him with everything, he couldn't do anything for her. He couldn't even buy a new set of clothes for her for all those years. Suddenly his heart felt heavy, and his eyes moistened. Without even realizing, tears started welling down his eyes. He then ran towards her, with eyes full of tears, and as he got close to her, he threw himself in her arms and hugged her tightly. "Ari, what's the matter? Did something happen in school?" she asked while gently stroking his back with her hands. However, he didn't reply anything at all. He only tightened his grip as she stroked his back. "He must have not been selected for the team," she guessed. It's all right. We'll try another time," she tried to console him. Finally, after some time, he loosened his grip. "Shall we head home now?" she asked as he loosened his grip. But still, he didn't reply anything at all. She tried to shake him off, but there was no reaction from him whatsoever. Just then his arms fell down involuntarily. Did he fall asleep? She chuckled as she carried him up. And indeed, he had fallen asleep in her arms. Even though he fell asleep, she didn't wake him up and instead carried him all the way to the station. "Did he fall asleep?" his father questioned as they exited the train. While he was sleeping peacefully in her arms inside the train, his mother phoned his father and informed about his condition to his father. She then asked him to pick them up in the station. "Shh, don't talk loudly. Let him sleep," she whispered. Okay, he whispered back. His father took him from her arms and carried him. "The training must have been really exhausting today," Takashi whispered. "I guess so." As if he was unconscious, he didn't even notice when he fell asleep. His parents carried him carefully from the school to home without waking him up. 1:43 a.m. Later in the night, as he woke up from his dream, he found himself lying in his bed. When did I get here?" he mumbled as he woke up in the night. "Where is Mom? The last thing I remember is hugging her in front of the school gate. Was everything perhaps a dream?" he bewilderingly questioned. Growl. All of a sudden, his stomach started to make weird noises. Why do I feel hungry all of a sudden? He hadn't eaten anything since lunchtime. To let him sleep peacefully, his parents didn't wake him up for dinner. He then got out from his bed and started to walk towards the kitchen. "There must be something in the refrigerator," he mumbled as he tried to open up the refrigerator. Expecting he might wake up and feel hungry, his parents had stored a cake and apple juice in the refrigerator. "Whoa, there's cake today!" He was baffled by the sight of cake in the refrigerator. Rarely his mother let him eat sweet things. She considered sweets unhealthy and therefore forbade him to eat sweets. Cake being as sweet was no exception as well. Nom. I must have passed out in her arms," he mumbled while chewing the cake. He couldn't think of anything else beside passing out in her arms to explain why he couldn't remember anything after hugging her. While reminiscing of the moment before he passed out, he remembered about the things he thought while hugging her. And once again, those thoughts saddened him. Yash! Let's earn a lot of money and buy her everything she desires, he yelled enthusiastically. Bark! Bark! The dogs in the neighborhood started to bark listening to his loud yells in the middle of the night. Ops! Gotta keep it low or else it won't end up good if Mom finds me awake, he mumbled as he chugged the bottle of juice in a single gulp. After eating, he headed toward his bed. He closed his eyes, but he couldn't sleep for some reason. Unable to sleep, he started to think of ways to make money. Even though I know the future events, I can't make use of it. I only know of the major events which will take in football, and I can't even remember most of the Champions League finals. But even knowing those events won't change anything at all. After all, betting is illegal in Japan, and even if it were legal, I wouldn't be allowed to bet after all. I'm still too young. Human mind is programmed in such a way that it forgets most of the things if there's no repetition whatsoever as time progresses. So it was only natural for Hiro to forget most of the event which took place because it had been a lot of time since he last remembered those events. The events like Champions League finals and other matches which happened a long time ago, he couldn't remember it even if he wanted to remember. So betting is out of our list to make money. What if I write novels? Another idea flashed in his mind. Ah, shit. Right. I never read a novel before. I should have listened to my friends back then. He exasperated. In his previous life, many teammates in his team suggested him to read novels, but he never paid any attention to novels and brushed off their suggestions. What if I teach football? He thought of teaching football as a means of earning money, but he forgot that he himself was still a child once again. Ah, shit. Right. Who'd want to learn football from a 6-year-old? Ha 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 ha. He laughed awkwardly. Ah, I can't think of anything. Just how the hell should I make money? He screamed in frustration. Even after thinking for a while, he couldn't come up with any means of making money. He was too young to make money legally. Let's just forget about making money for now and focus on football. Finally, he gave up on the thoughts of making money after failing to come up with ideas to make money. Just what time is it now? He reached for his drawer beside his bed to take out his phone. Just as he reached for his phone, something sparked in his mind. Phone! Just as he was about to give up on the thoughts of making money, something sparked in his mind as he took hold of his phone. What if I start making content related to football and post it on social media sites? I'm sure that I can get tons of views since I'm still a kid, and people love kids demonstrating something extraordinary. It might take some time, but I've got plenty of time in my hands right now. So given the situation, it's the perfect idea for making money. And if I'll get lucky, professional scouts might take notice of me as well, which will further help me with my goals. But I'll probably need someone to take my videos. Just when he finally thought of a good idea to make money, he encountered another problem. He was really bad at making videos. Aside from playing football, he didn't have any talent at all, and football was the only thing he was good at. What if I ask my parents to do it for me? He wondered. They'll probably decline my request. They're busy with their jobs, so I'll have to think of someone else. But for now, let's sleep. Ring! 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 The sound of the alarm clock woke him up early in the morning at 5 a.m. Ugh, it's morning already? I want to sleep a little more, he exclaimed in half-asleep state. Even though he wanted to sleep a little more, he woke up regardless. For past few months, it had been his daily routine to wake up early in the morning to train. 247, 248, 249, and finally 250. Why is that kid shooting ball early in the morning? One of the passerby inquired. Maybe he's training to become a professional football player. Another passerby replied. Oh, that kid. It must be your first time jogging out here. For past 7 or 8 months, he had been coming to the park daily with his ball and training all by himself. He's pretty much dedicated. Another passerby who was jogging in the park interrupted the two passerbys' conversation. While kids his age are sleeping right now, he's here working hard for his dreams. His parents must be really proud of him. Alas, if only my kids were as hardworking as him. An old lady who was jogging in the park joined in the discussion between all those previous passerbys. Even though he was still a kid, his neighborhood was quite safe for kids to go out early in the morning. And even though he used to get up early in the morning, as soon as he used to reach home after exercising, he'd throw himself in bed and fall asleep instantly. Today wasn't any different as well. As soon as he got home, he knocked himself into the bed and fell asleep. "Wake up, hero! Wake up fast or else you'll be late for school," his mother yelled. "Ah, let me sleep a little more," he replied in his sleepy voice and pulled the blanket over his head and covered himself wholly. However, she kept on shaking him to wake him up. Seeing his stubbornness to wake up, she pulled the blanket in one fell swoop. And as usual, once again, he got scolded by his mother. As if his day would turn out incomplete without her early morning nagging, it had kind of become something like a ritual for him to wake up to her nagging every morning. Slam! As usual, you're late. While walking towards his classroom, Akashi smacked his back playfully. "Ah, yeah, I woke up kind of late today," Hiro replied while rubbing his back with his hands. "Did you watch yesterday's Ikasiko?" Akashi inquired. "It was yesterday?" Hiro bewilderingly replied. Just like Hiro, Akashi loved to watch European football. "Surely this time Real Madrid's gonna win both La Liga and Champions League," Akashi proudly exclaimed. Akashi was a supporter of Real Madrid and idolized Christian Romero, who played for Real Madrid. Having the knowledge of the future, he knew exactly who'd win the titles, and 2015 was the season of Barcelona. They'd go on to win La Liga, Copa del Rey, and Champions League in that season. "Dream on! It's going to be Barcelona who'll win both La Liga and Champions League," Hiro replied back. With that reply, both of them got into an argument. Most of the time, they got along pretty well with each other, but every time the topic of their favorite club was brought, they used to get into an argument. Even though Hiro was quite mature from inside, he would still argue when the topic of the club he supported was brought onto the table. "You kids, don't you have classes?" one of the faculty members yelled while they were arguing with each other in the hallway. Hearing his yell, both of them headed toward their respective classrooms. Later in the evening, after the daily training ended, while they were preparing to head home, Hiro called out for Akashi. "Akashi, don't you want to improve your game?" Hiro inquired. "I do want to improve my gameplay, but I don't know how to improve my gameplay." Akashi frowned. "I can help you with it, but you need to help me with something as well." Hiro proposed a deal to Akashi. In return for teaching him football, Hiro wanted Akashi to shoot his videos. Akashi reluctantly agreed to his proposal. Since he knew what Hiro was capable of, he didn't doubt his ability to teach him football. And just like that, both of them agreed to help each other. New quest unlocked. Help Akashi to make his debut in the tournament. Reward on completion, golden ticket. Punishment on failure, deduction of random stat. A quest unlocked all of a sudden. The reward is very tempting, but the punishment is really harsh as well. All of a sudden, a quest unlocked. And surprisingly, the system offered a golden roulette ticket for the reward on completion. He does have potential, but I'm sure he won't get to play in the first match. And if we lose the first match, the quest is basically all over. "Why are you staring at me like that?" Akashi inquired. Without even realizing, he was contemplatively staring at Akashi with a weird expression in his face. "I was thinking of how I can grind you." "Huh? Grind me?" "Yeah, I was thinking of the training method to help you improve." Heh. Hiro revealed an evil smirk as he finished his sentence. "Somehow I'm having ill omen about this." Akashi gulped his saliva. "Okay then, let's meet at school ground this Saturday at 5 p.m. School ground? But will the teacher even allow us to use the school ground during holiday?" Akashi questioned. During holidays, nobody was allowed to use the school facilities. However, Hiro, who was sponsored by the school, was allowed to use the ground even during holidays. "Don't worry about that. Just meet me at the ground this Saturday at 5 p.m., Hiro assured. And just like that, Akashi agreed to shoot videos of Hiro in exchange for teaching him football. Fast forward to Saturday, Hiro made Akashi to shoot the ball 500 times. However, he couldn't even shoot 200 times. Everything went well at first, But as he progressed forward, Akashi's legs got heavy, and he couldn't even lift his legs properly. Hiro made him do the sets of exercises given by the system. But unlike Hiro, Akashi couldn't even complete 3 sets of the exercises. And as per the deal between them, Akashi shot Hiro's videos after the training. Later at night, Hiro was fiddling around with his phone while lying in his bed. Now then, what should I name the channel? Hiro started to wonder about the name of his channel. He was going to upload the video shot by Akashi in his YouTube channel, but he couldn't think of a name for his channel. It should work. The name of my channel will be Tilde.